Oh, gotcha. Okay. The last item on planning committee is the request for a Westmeath School delegation to Renfrew County School Board, and Christine's going to speak to this.
Thank you, Chair. When I was perusing my emails this morning, I opened the Ottawa Valley Business newsletter, and this item caught my eye, and I was very surprised to read, I've highlighted that last paragraph for you, that if this council wants to be a delegation to the Renfrew County School Board to voice your dismay about the potential council or closing rather of Westmeath School, I have to register you by May 9th. Now, we received no direct notification of this, and I did copy Mr. Neil Nicholson on that email. Neil has joined us tonight and is available if anyone has any questions. So I have prepared a motion for you folks to direct me. I have to write a letter. I had Karen contact the school board today to see what is required. They want a letter of what you plan to discuss, who will be talking, and if there's any presentation such as a PowerPoint, they want to view it in advance. And I have to have that to them. I guess they don't want any nasty surprises popping up on the screen. So I have to have that to them by May 9th at 4:30. So I guess you want to move and seconder on that.
Any comments or questions? So just to give everybody a quick debriefing, there was, I think, 4 of us. Councillor Mackay, the mayor, myself, and Councillor McLaughlin attended the session in Westmeath. And I'm sure there'll be some decent discussion here. Councillor Mackay?
I just think that every time they have a meeting, we don't get to say anything new to us, and there's no sense even having that meeting. It seems like a done deal, and I'd like to overturn it. That's it.
Mayor?
I kind of agree with Dave, Councillor Mackay. It seems like this was a foregone conclusion long before anything was started, and to have that kind of a power within a public system is just mind-boggling. I definitely suggest we go in front of them, and I think we continue pushing the ministry to talk to them directly. There should have been more effort to try and bring the different entities together. They're affecting our whole overview of what we're trying to do in economic development, and I don't think that is fair of them. I think that's undermining our principles. So I think we need to push this a little harder.
Councillor McLaughlin?
On much the same note, I had asked the question when we were there that night if they had any idea of what growth and what development was going to happen in the Beachburg and Catchment area, because I think they told us that it was pretty nearly at capacity, if I'm not mistaken. And those are some of the questions we need to answer, because if we move all these children to Beachburg, and I mean most of our, and I would like to have the figures, and maybe Doug could get them for us before we go to them, to see how much growth has happened, because any that I can recollect, 90% of our growth and development has been in the Beachburg Public School and catchment area. Around Beachburg, Rabbit Road, I think is where, and I think it was Councillor Olmsted the first night spoke about it and brought it to my mind. And I asked that question up there. Nobody seemed to have the answer to it. They didn't even know what area to send me to, so I just kind of left it. I had left it, but I've heard no reply back, and I think if we're going to do something, we should maybe have that. And I just wonder, seeing that Neil is here, if there's anything, if we could have consensus that Neil comes up and talks and see if there's anything that he would like to add to it. Because I'm sure if everybody's like me, I'm certainly there to help, and I think everybody else is as well. So I would ask for consensus that Neil, if there's something more he could add there, wants our direction for, that he come up and speak.
We'll finish any questions among council here first, and then we'll go there. Christine?
Just to let you know as well, I have sent two emails to Liz Sandals, the Minister of Education, requesting a meeting be set up for you folks to meet with the Minister and express, and this was done at the request of the Mayor, and I have had no response. And I did have a read receipt, so they have been received and read, and the request was for a meeting at her earliest convenience with the pending supposed final vote by the school board on this matter on May 31st.
Mayor, were you up next? Or okay, Mayor?
I just, what I meant to say before too is, when I'm looking at this process, the most unfortunate thing that I view is the families and students don't ever seem to enter into the formula at any point. I have yet to hear anything that would suggest that what is happening is other than a monetary, bringing everybody into the urban area, and again, we lose out. I think that's what everybody heard that night.
Councillor Mackay?
My man in the Queen's Park tells me that if they don't get a reply from the minister, have our MPP bring it up that, more or less stating that the Liberal government is trying to depopulate rural Ontario, and why won't you meet with these people from the Westmeath Public School? That puts pressure on the minister. That's how we'll get our meeting. So if we can't get a reply from her, we'll have to say, why wouldn't we? We'll get John Yakubuski to ask her in Parliament, which opens, I think, next week, why they haven't answered our letters. And
I think I'd like to get a letter to our MPP regardless.
Yeah.
I think he should be contacted. Okay, so he's been copied on that email. Just for my part, I was extremely disappointed in the process that night in Westmeath. It was a very carefully planned out meeting. They made sure, so to give you a bit of an idea how the meeting went, they had an opening introduction. Some various school board members spoke, a couple of trustees spoke, and then they told everybody in the audience that nobody would have a chance to speak. Nobody could speak publicly, nobody in the microphone, no community leaders could speak whatsoever. So they had stations set up around the room where you could go and give comments to the stations, and they would record the comments. And so those comments were summarized, and of course we thought that they were to come back summarized with replies, but there was no replies to any public comments whatsoever. There was simply a summary of all the public comments that night. Where have anybody received those comments? I did see a copy of them, but I think they're keeping those very closely guarded. But again, there's no replies to any public comment, which again, in my opinion, it's extremely disappointing that it's a very closed, tight-lipped approach, and very tight timelines imposed on people as well, where I think it was from a 6-month maybe down to a 3-month process. So it doesn't give anybody a chance to investigate any other uses or multiple uses or any other opportunities to help fill the school or to form community groups. And I have to wonder whether it was a foregone conclusion. And even in their verbiage that night, everything that they said, they discussed it in the past tense as if the school was closed. So I don't think there was any regard for public opinion, the families, young children. And if you were sitting in the audience, you heard. I'm sure that the trustees and these people couldn't hear the speak, but when you were sitting in the general audience, as the four of us were, you heard all the comments, and it's something like school buses. Well, the school bus, it's only a 10-minute ride from Westmeath to Beachburg, so they gave a presentation of all the school bus routes, and the gentleman who presented that said, well, just add 10 minutes onto all those routes, and that's what the ride is. Well, the comments that went around us was, well, you're not accounting for an extra 15 stops, and You know, my child who's living in Rapid Road or down on La Paz has got to come through Westmeath and then go to Beachburg. You know, you're talking about an extra 30, 40 minutes in some cases. You're not talking about an extra 10. So I just think that the meeting was very, very much a railroad for all the attendees. So we're looking for consensus for Neil to come speak. Okay, Neil would, if you want, that is.
We're not asking for a speech.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to press when it turns blue, you're on.
You've only got 30 minutes.
Well, I only get 15 with the school board, so. No, three things. First one is you're exactly right, Councillor Chris. The report that they filed on Friday, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it because the public is very disappointed in it. It is essentially a list of every comment made by the people there, with no response, no recommendation for what to do with those comments. So really it appears, the feeling that I'm getting talking to people in the community, is that it's really just, they were, you know, one of the check in the boxes about closing Westmeath is you have to have a public meeting. Check. We collected their comments. Check. We're still closing the school. So the process itself is flawed, and I don't think they did anything to help the transition. They're going to make the decision on the 1st of June or the 31st of May, and people are not going to be happy. And I don't think they'll be happy either way. They've lost a lot of faith in the system. The second thing, and the one point I've been really harping on our mayor about, is the process. And when you take a look and you dig into it, and this has been my first time I've done it, the modified accommodation review process, this 12-week timeline, is supposed to be in support of rural communities and urban communities, but rural specifically. And it's mentioned by the Ministry of Education. Well, 12 weeks isn't enough time for a municipality, let alone volunteer community members to come together and counter a school board's proposal. That involvement should have been years ago. And frankly, if we're worried about Cobden and Beachburg's future, we can't wait for them to give us a letter and tell us, oh, you know what, we're going to close them in 24 weeks. Let's have 6 months review about it, and then we'll close them. The problem with the policy is it gives the school boards all of the power to influence the future of the municipality and takes it all away from you. And you're left to pick up the pieces after they've made the decision. And hopefully it's a decision that suits you, and in some cases it won't be. The growth of Beachburg and what's going to happen to Beachburg School. It's got a capacity of just over 200. It's at 130 right now. If we put 55 in it, you could close OLG in Westmeath, and there's no way they could fit it in there. So if OLG closes, the closest place they'll send it to it is St. Lourdes in Pembroke, which will take another 50 kids out of the community. So for me, I think the big part of going up to the Ministry of Education and saying, yeah, your policy says you're supposed to be participating with the communities. You have a value in rural life, but we're not part of it. You've capped us at the knees, and we don't have a say. And a delegation on the May 16th, although it's important, and I encourage participation from the council, it's too late, too much too late. I think we need to get involved earlier. One thing that the council or the school board did share with me when we asked them about the economics of the decision. We said, is this just a numbers game? And they said, if it was a numbers game, they'd close Beachburg, because there are so many vacancies in Pembroke right now that they could save more money by shipping every kid out of Whitewater and sending them to Pembroke. And has that kind of information ever made it to this municipality? Are you aware of that deficiency in the system? Like, it frustrates the heck out of me that here we are trying to create a recreation center, a Whitewater, natural resource through Joel and his company, and they're taking our kids and going to send them away.
Mayor?
The track record of the school boards is very clearly set in taking all rural children and putting them in the urban areas, basically firing them on to anything along a major highway. There's they talk the talk and do not walk the walk of what their mandates are. So it would make you think that there's some other mandate that they're being pushed to follow. They can't be without conscience. And you know what? They pay bigger bills in the city to in a lot of cases to truck children in and fill their schools. And I asked the question of a couple of their people that Wednesday night we were there. I'd like to know what the difference in mileage is between bringing the low numbers from Pembroke to Westmeath as opposed from Westmeath to Pembroke. And I'm not asking a stupid question. I'm asking a question that is extremely important to this municipality. You know, and I really feel very firm that we're going to have to step up to the plate and take charge of our municipality. And we collect all our money. We take a great deal of flack for the tax bills. We need some say.
Councillor McKay?
I'd like to see an audit, not a forensic audit, but an audit done on the school board, because I think there's a lot of insufficiency there. And I wonder, now they're down to apparently 10,000 children right across Renfrew County, the public board. How many people are running that now as compared to when we had 20,000 children, and how big the board has become? It's an entity unto itself, and it just keeps growing and growing.
Yep.
And I'd like to ask the minister to do an audit on that.
Councillor Jackson?
I'm certainly in favor that somebody from the council should attend the May 16th meeting and put our arguments forward, whether we think it's a done deal or not. I think saying nothing is not an option. I think it's important that we be heard as a smaller municipality, and we're trying to bring people into the municipality. We don't want to drive them away. If we don't have schools, like we've said before, people will not come. And it's important, and I agree with Mayor Johnson, the cost is no different than bringing those students out to Westmeath or Beachburg than to bring them into the city. I think, in fact, it might be a little bit cheaper, because if those students walked to the school, then it would be all encompassing, would be one pickup, and they wouldn't have to pick up all along the way. So I'm in favor of it, and unfortunately I didn't have the opportunity to go out to the Westmeath to support the school, as I was otherwise detained, but I'm certainly in support of moving forward, and I would hope that we can get some information to the ministry to change their way of doing business when it comes to closing down schools. I think that's important. I don't think, once Westmeath is done, I don't think it's an easy thing to say that, okay, well, that was a done deal and forget about it. I think we need to pursue that further. And I think we need to ensure that our MPP is aware that the council's in favor of going to the May 16th meeting, and see what he can do to move forward to gain access to the ministry in at Toronto, to see if we can actually speak with somebody down there. But it's important.
I think Councillor McLaughlin was up.
I just recollect back, and I think it's 11 years now, and if they close this school, that'll be half of our schools that will be closed in the Whitewater, public schools that will be closed in the Whitewater region. And much like Neil says, I went to the last one, and I came with the same conclusion as what he has. It's pretty well, we can go through the motions, but the decision's already been made. Whether it's made by the county or it's made by Queen's Park, I'm not quite sure, but I think, as it's around the table, I think we have to go ahead and we have to tell them we're not very happy. And it is half of our schools, because it closed Ross Mindview. I'm guessing it was 11 years ago. It's somewhere in that area. So